Welcome to the Four Listeners Program. Welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for checking us out this week. What up, everybody? I'm Spear, and on the mics with me this week is the Z-Man. What is up, Z?
Boom, 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 boom. Ba-dee-doo-doo-doo. Boom, 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 boom. Ba-dee-doo-doo-doo.
All right. That's fantastic. No Ganthor tonight. Ganthor is off doing whatever Ganthor does whenever he's not doing this. Z-Man, what do we got on tap this week? We got a guest waiting in the wings. What do we got on tap?
For me, I've gone to a couple improv shows, and for me, there's so much anxiety as an audience member in improv shows that something must be done about improv.
Something must be done about improv.
Yeah, and to help us out, we have a friend of mine who has been taking improv classes for the last year. Let me bring in my buddy here, Nick. What's up, Nick?
Hey guys, how's it going?
What got you into improv, Nick?
There's a long story, I guess, that kind of led up to it, but the short version of it is I wanted to be a more confident speaker and get over things like social anxiety, and eventually I kind of worked up to a point where I'm like, all the advice I heard was improv's really good for this stuff, and at some point I wanted to do stand-up, and I didn't want to be alone on stage, so I figured improv would be the first kind of natural step in that direction.
Well, as would a podcast where we literally have maybe 3 to 5 dozens of people.
It's a little low-risk environment.
And they can't even see me here.
They can't even see you, man. We're big time.
Dozens of people are waiting for the show to get published. Come on now, I got to get going. So how do you feel like it's been helping you so far? I mean, you've been doing this for about a year now. Do you feel more confident in terms of public speaking?
Oh, yeah, totally. There are some people that I met around like when I started 101, and they haven't seen me for like 6 or plus months or so. And like even they said that I just carry myself differently now. I think a lot of the main things that you kind of get out of the way in even just like a 101 course is, just how to connect with your emotions and stuff that you don't normally, access on a typical day. I think the key thing that you learn early on is that the only wrong move is to not make one. And even then, if you have anyone else in the scene, they're still gonna cover for you.
It's true that it's a team effort. If you're up there with a group of people, if you goof up, there's gonna be somebody right there to pick you up when you fall down. And just continue the scene moving. Either that or the director will call the scene early and just get you the hell out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially if you're doing like a run of scenes or whatever, your teammates are going to see, how a scene's going, and if it needs help or if they need someone to come on and support them or support them from the sides or even just edit the scene. There's so many options available, depending on your format.
Yep. My mother in high school made me go as a freshman. Made me go to this improv thing. I had no interest in going. I was kind of introverted at the time. Nobody will believe this.
What?
Yeah, at the time I was kind of introverted, and I didn't want to be a part of this. So I remember very distinctly leaning up against the wall, watching all these people kind of gather. And it was like, oh, my God, what the hell am I doing here? But my mother said, this will be good for you. You're going to go. You're going to learn how to get up in front of a group of people. You're going to learn how to speak in front of a group of people. Go. And I'm like, okay. And you know what? That might be the best thing my mom ever did for me. It might be I don't even want to know what the best thing that my mom did for you guys is. You can leave that alone. But the best thing that my mom ever did for me was to send me to the improv thing, because it really did help a great deal with my my public speaking. Improv I recommend it to anybody.
It's nice that your mom wanted to share her trade with you. You know, like getting in front of a camera and on stage.
Yeah, getting in front of a group of people. Yeah.
Have you ever done naked stand-up? That's a thing.
That is a thing, and they do it at Improv Boston. I don't remember how frequently, but
it's once a month. There's this portly redheaded man who hosts it, and he comes out butt naked and does his thing, and then introduces up to 10 other comedians who all come out
in the buff,
all on the buff, and it's even It's very uncomfortable for everyone.
That's got to be hilarious, though.
It's not. It's not at all.
So why? All right, so
It's brave. We'll go brave.
We'll go brave. All right, fine. But why? I mean, why? You mentioned that you find you're anxious sitting in the audience watching this. I understand if they're naked, but I could see a bit of anxiety, a little discomfort. Why would you be anxious watching performers?
It's just it's cringe-worthy sometimes. Just when it's really good improv, it's humorous. It's funny. I can see the appeal to it. But anything subpar, there's always just those moments where like you're trying to get into the groove or trying to find themselves. If the people are trying to find their way through the scene, and it's just like you're just like I don't know, everything just scrunches up. I'm just like, oh, that was uncomfortable
That
or
bombed,
weird or awkward.
that bomb, that was terrible. Yeah. Well, it's like any other performance, though. I mean, when you watch something bomb, it's cringeworthy, where you're right. Oh God, he did not stick that landing.
No.
Yeah.
And it's just the occurrence rate is higher, I think, in improv, just because it is you have to make it up on the fly. It's not rehearsable. You can rehearse the types of games or the types of scenes you're going to do, but you're never going to be able to rehearse the actual content. Actually, is that true? I know they always say that they don't rehearse, but do you guys ever have come up with pre-arranged skits?
None of the content is ever rehearsed or planned ahead of time. Like sometimes you might get an idea of something cool to do on stage next time you're up there, but you never do it. It's poor form, and honestly, if you're like quote truly doing improv, it's not even going to come to mind when you're on stage because you're going to be so in the moment.
In the back of your head, do you have like characters that you wanted to try out? Like you got this French grocery bag boy or something like that you think would be a funny thing to bring into some skit, so you have him in the back of your head, or some, I don't know, German newspaper delivery kid.
I think an accent is useful. Like if you have a French or a German accent at your disposal, those are useful. But again, you're not trying to put that accent in a particular scene until you see the scene develop. Like one of the games that we used to play was somebody would start a scene like, here's a scenario, you're in a grocery store, go. And then, the two people are talking, and then somebody yells out, freeze. And then whatever position they're in with whatever hands or, however they're standing or whatever, somebody has to tag out somebody in that position, assume that position, and then start a new scene. So it always ends up being, something based on something physical, some physicality. And if you can take the voice and you can add it to the physicality, then I think you kind of add to it. It's kind of a plus type of deal, but you don't ever kind of go in with a preconceived notion. Otherwise, I agree with Nick entirely. You're not really doing improv. You're just going in with a canned idea and then just executing it based on whatever the hell's going on.
Yeah. Okay.
There's like a ton of things to keep in mind when I guess constructing a scene, and everyone kind of has their own different way of doing it and their own separate approaches.
Yep.
The way that I've kind of been taught is feel a way about a thing. And I think as long as your character has an opinion about the situation and the character or characters that you're on stage with, really, I think that's really going to drive the scene. That's where you're going to get a lot of your humor from. And like, you don't even have to start funny. Even you can discover you get to discover what's funny about it.
You don't need to go for the humor all the time. I mean, a lot of times when you're going through the kind of the process of discovery, and that's usually the first few minutes of any sketch or any skit is just figuring out where the hell this is going to go, and you're just looking for that first connection. Because you're feeling each other out, and you're looking for that first connection. Once you find that beat, and whether it's emotional or it's funny or it's sad or whatever it is, once you find it, that's what you kind of glom onto. And then you kind of drive where it goes from there. Once you find that emotion, you can kind of dig into that a little bit and see where it's going to go. And that's the best part about improv is you're going through that period of discovery first, and then it's what can I do with this once I got there. The most terrifying part of going through that process is not finding that connection right away, because you're like, now you're in the middle of this and you're going, where in the hell is this going? Because you can't figure it out, you can't find it. You're like, where is this going? And that's when the terror actually sets in. Because if you don't know where you're going, now you're lost. And that's where that's when you sit out there, Z, going, oh, shit.
Right.
Do you actually find it to be fun? Like, do you enjoy it, or is it more terrifying and you're trying to conquer this fear rather than it actually being fun?
So, good question. But I was finding that as the year progressed, when I was just taking classes in 101, like I was nervous for like a week before my first class show for 101, and it's like every subsequent show that happened, it's like that fear kind of got cut in half. So, and it was just within fairly recently after that 2-hour show, like I muttered the words to myself as I walked off stage. I survived because it was so much. I think people enjoyed the show. I mean, we got laughs, but I'd never done anything like that. But it was around that point in time when I finally started to learn how to kind of transfer all that like anxious fear energy into more excitement. Like I was kind of okay going into that one, but ever since that, I think I'm more excited to get on stage now, because once you start getting that fear out of your mind, like you can still be again nervous to put on a good show, but like once that fear is out of the way, that kind of frees up more your brain to actually be present in the scene and do your best work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you're trying to come together with a group, are you just literally just taking any group you can get into, or are you trying to craft a group? Are there like positions in an improv troupe that you're trying to fill? Is it like the guy who's good at I don't know, making songs, is a guy who's good at impersonations, or like you said, foreign accents and things like that?
I think so. I don't have a ton of experience with all the with a ton of group dynamics, but I think it's going to be like a your mileage may vary sort of thing, where certain groups will be looking for certain things, like especially if you're like there's some teams that specifically perform a show format known as like the Herald, and that's usually best performed with like I think it's about like 6 to 8 people. So ideally, you're going to want 6 to 8 people who are at least experienced and with the types of things that go into a show like that, or have performed it before.
I don't think it's important that you have specific roles that you have to fill, or like specific positions. I think it's probably more important that the people that you are going to be doing this with are compatible. It's not about playing certain positions, but knowing what your team is capable of doing. That's, I think, probably more important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because, in any given scene, you could be kind of expected to do just about anything.
No.
I think at least with the people who I've, played with and whatever, they typically won't force you into a musical role if you're not experienced in it or not comfortable with it, because there's something just clearly challenging about it. Because there's a specific skill set that comes along with that. But I think outside of that, most other things
it's a very difficult skill set to acquire too.
Well, I'll let you know in a couple months, because I should be wrapping up 701 in August, and then I'm probably going to sign up for Musical Improv 101 after that.
Oh, wow.
Purely as a fear-conquering thing. Like, I don't know if I want to do anything with it, but singing has never been my strong point, and...
Dude, just own it. Just own it.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I've learned from doing this show, 300 whatever episodes, is don't worry what the people say.
Yeah, just say it. Just sing it.
Yeah, because I've had a teacher say, it doesn't matter if you're good. It just matters that you do it.
Just do it with confidence, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nick, let me ask you this: if we were going to try to sell Z on getting into improv, what would you tell him was the biggest benefit that you've gotten so far from taking these classes and performing?
Well, I know for myself, my needs were probably a little different than Z's, but for me, it was sort of mostly just a self-confidence thing, but not like in a cocky way, but like I just feel more comfortable in general.
Yeah, I don't have an issue there.
Yeah, you do not lack for self-confidence. That's not your problem.
Nope, that's not a selling point.
That's not your problem. I mean, I could tell you that the biggest benefit I got was public speaking, and I have a tendency not to write speeches anymore, where I will just have like talking points, and I will wing whole speeches for like half hour, 45 minutes without having to read off a script.
That's a long time.
To be able to talk for 45 minutes straight, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible.
Dude, I can talk for way longer than that, buddy. I can talk for way longer than that, pal. Just give me a topic and let me go. Why do you think I do this podcast every week? I got to get it out of my system.
You just have all these words. Just got to get them out.
Got to get them out. Just got to get them all out of my brain. I will put insomniacs to sleep. it's no problem. Well, so if I were you, Z, I would take it so that I could be a more effective communicator at my job. I just took a class. It was about storytelling as an effective communicator. And to be able to relate to people, you tell stories that help them understand where you're coming from so that you can get a particular point across. And didn't you do something like that where you got up on stage, Z, and you had to tell stories about some miserable shit that happened to you?
I did a Mortified.
Well, so what was Mortified?
Mortified was me retelling a story that I wrote to a girl in 10th grade. But you read it from the paper. You're not supposed to be making it up. It's actually intended to be read from notes.
Read from notes.
So the Moth is my next challenge, and I want to do a Moth show, and that is real stories told live without notes.
So there you go. So you're going to have to be able to think on your feet there,
but it's a rehearsed story. It's a story you know. Well,
sure, but it's going to be, but it's going to be you'll ebb and flow with it a little bit rather than reading it off the notes.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun too.
I don't have any concern with that. I'm just trying to. I need to take the time to hone the story down because you have to get it under 5 minutes, and I have to find the right theme. So the Moth has themes each night, so I'm just waiting for a good theme that it's applicable to.
What kind of themes have they had?
They'll do things like death, or they'll do scary, voodoo. I don't know. They come up with whatever. Mystified. They'll have weird, random words.
Mystified.
Yeah.
I would
a
talk
time where you were mystified.
Every time I come across a woman.
And they make no sense.
I am continually mystified. What else do you want to touch on?
One quick thing about skills that you can develop through improv, and I think this one is often really overlooked, like to the point that I almost forgot to bring it up, it really helps develop your listening.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of the time when we think about improv, we're talking about people being funny like on stage, and whether it's coming up with like just the right line at just the right time or whatever, but a lot of it is listening to what everyone else is doing and kind of making sure you're actually paying attention to what everyone else is doing, and you're just not doing your own personal show that just happens to have other people in it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it just helps you be a better conversationalist, helps you be a better communicator. All of this comes under the guise of being a better communicator, either from a performance perspective or just kind of in the rest of your life.
Yeah, totally agree.
So get in there, Z. Get yourself a class.
Maybe.
Not feeling it.
Not feeling it. Gentlemen, I forgot to say this.
What?
Happy Steak and a Blowjob Day.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Happy Pie Day.
Oh, no. I've got 2 hours left to make up for it.
You got what? For what? The steak and blowjob or a pie? What are you getting?
I got a steak to frosting in my fridge right now. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Let me. I gotta go hit that.
All right.
I have a Pop-Tart here. Does that count?
Yeah,
that does count as pie.
If you squint, it'll be just fine.
Is it an apple Pop-Tart?
Unfortunately, I think it's blueberry. So yeah, so like blueberry pie. Yeah, perfect.
Squint, and it'll look just like a pie.
Yeah, blueberry pie. You can still stick a dick in it.
Yeah, man, go ahead, get in there.
Yeah. It's not cherry, but I mean, blueberry's pretty good too.
Oh, strawberry's my jam. Frosted strawberry Pop-Tarts, man. Those are the best things on the planet.
With the sprinkly things on it.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the best of the Pop-Tarts, I think.
That's what I'm talking about, Nick.
I mean, getting into those toasted cinnamon ones, they're pretty good too. They're all right.
Frosted strawberry, man.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree.
So what did we learn? What did we learn about improv, Z-Man?
Still very uncomfortable.
It's not, though. It can be, but it's not. You know what the best audience is? The best audience is the giving audience, the one that will, not cringe when something goes awry on stage.
Yeah, you don't want me in the audience.
Oh, well, then fine. That's fine. Nick, what did you learn?
I think I learned that I have to start laying on the peer pressure for Z to take a class.
Hell yeah! No, I'm with you on that one. What did I learn? I learned that I think I want to get myself back into this because talking about it now, I feel like I haven't done this in a long time, but it's something that I was really fond of in high school. It was probably one of the best things I did. So I want to get back into it, I think.
Did they do kids improv shows?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Could you do like a Daddy and Me kids
Oh
improv?
my God, my kid's life is improv. That's all he does.
I know
is
it
improv.
is. That's what I'm saying. He would go nuts for this.
Holy shit! Couldn't
All
imagine.
right.
My kid just lives improv. He flops around on the floor. He does his thing.
Yeah.
So, if you think you want to get yourself into an improv show, why don't you go ahead and let us know on the Facebook page, facebook.com/4listeners or 4listeners.com. You can check out the show on Stitcher Radio, on iTunes, or on Google Play. Just search for 4listeners and we'll pop right on up. And you can give us a tweet on the Twitters at 4listeners. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for joining us and talking to us about improv. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we thank all of you for checking us out this week, and we hope that you will check us out again next week. Thanks a bunch, everybody.
Yeah, but chicks, funny chicks are, funny chicks are awesome.
I'm
Funny,
gonna
sorry,
just
funny.
I'm gonna
sorry,
generalize that a little further for you. I'm gonna
Funny,
just go like,
confident chicks.
let me generalize, and I'll just say, I think just funny people are awesome.
Well,
Funny people are awesome.
How about that?
all right. Funny people are awesome. Funny, confident people.
But if they have boobs, they're even better.
Boobs make things better. Everything is better with boobs.
Everything's better with boobs.